Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This afternoon, I take the pleasure of introducing the team from the Student Assessment Unit in the Ministry of Education. Ms. Kenisha Reed, Ms. Sanique Ennis, Mrs. Maxine Romaine White, and Ms. Anne-Marie Edwards. As the Student Assessment Unit continues its effort to support the system in improving its assessment practices, we are here to educate you as primary school teachers on the qualities and properties of an examination instrument so we can better meet the needs of students and objectives of lessons learned through ways of test paper. You are engaged in our third series of training to help you acquire the skills necessary to carry out your functions. We thank you all for coming out to share in this seminar, and those joining us via Zoom platform, we say thank you. We are prepared to answer all questions and provide clarity. All questions can be sent to us via our WhatsApp number 876-900-000 or through our live Zoom chat. We assure you that we will provide a response in a timely manner.
We will be giving a thorough description of this Grade 4 End of Term Language Arts examination. The name of the school was missing. The paper consisted of 50 test items. 30 of those items were multiple choice items, 10 short answer, and 5 items which targeted the psychomotor domain. Overall directions of the test was missing. The duration of the test was not stated. Directions given in order to carry out assessment were not clearly stated. They did not clearly state how answers were to be recorded. For example, for multiple choice items, they did not state whether students were to circle, underline, or mark a tick for their correct answer. The directions for items with similar instructions were not stated. Example, for items 2 to 6, identify the proper noun in the sentences below should have been the instruction. Test arrangement was poorly done as items were not arranged systematically. Test items were not arranged by increasing difficulty, that is, placing easier items first. The numbering was done in sequential order and the spacing allowed for ease of reading without confusion. Each test items did not have corresponding score value. Tests had errors. Example, for item 2, a proper noun began with a common letter. The domains targeted by the test were the psychomotor and the cognitive domain. However, test was mostly set to target the cognitive domain, so it is safe to say tests lack validity. Two major weaknesses on the test paper are: 1. All the domains and DOK levels were not tested. An end-of-term examination should have more objectives and strands covered. The test only covered topics from strands of language structure. The test showed that it took on one level way of thinking. 2. Each item did not have corresponding score value. When doing a test, students should know the score value that each item will give. This allows them ideas of how to structure and write their answers. Even if the score value for a section is given, it is possible for items within the section to be scored differently, and this should be stated. For example, a section will worth 20 marks, consists of 4 different test items from the 4 DOK levels. Part A of the sections value 1 mark, B values 3 marks, C values 6 marks, D values 10 marks. Students should know the weight each item's value in order to know how to approach each answer when writing.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, miss. This evening, I will be looking on the direction of the grade 4 language arts end of term examination paper. Firstly, the test paper lacks general instruction for the overall test. The directions would allow students to know the duration they have to complete the paper, the total section the paper has, each item type in each section, and how to answer the selected item types. The first instruction was not clear. It should have instructed students to either circle or underline their answer. It is important to clearly identify instruction so that there is no confusion. For instance, you could say, instruction, please follow the provided direction for each section of the paper. This will ensure clarity and enhance understanding. That was not written on the paper. Instruction should clearly state their directive. Example, instruction, follow the given direction for each section of the paper. That was not written on the paper. The test paper should have also include the marks allowed for each section of the test paper. There was no instruction as when to start the paper. For an example, do not start unless you are told so. The test paper fails to include essential guidelines for special circumstances, such as error or unreadable writing, which can lead to increased stress for candidates. Providing clarity in these areas will significantly enhance the testing experience. For instance, if a candidate accidentally skips a question of their writing and it is difficult to read, the lack of instruction can leave them feeling anxious and unsure about their performance. Also, the end of the test was also missing. And to close, lastly, the test paper could benefit from clear direction on how to label and organize the answers, which would have helped the students effectively present their responses. So looking through all the direction, there were a lot of things that was not included in the direction of the test paper, which would have caused students not to perform to the best of their ability. Had these things been included, then we would have a well-written test paper. I thank you.
The grade 4 end of term test that we looked at, we placed some emphasis on critiquing the qualities of a good test. And there are some qualities that we saw that were lacking, such as balance, efficiency, clarity, and validity. Now, we went through the paper and we looked at the number of multiple choice questions to the number of short answer questions. And we realized that there was an imbalance there. The test items also, in terms of balance, focus solely on the recall tasks, which does not fully assess the students' ability to apply the concept of meaningful writing. And therefore, we would have recommended that it would have some more concepts of meaningful writing so as to touch on the different domains of the children. Efficiency, the test relies heavily on recognition-based tasks like multiple choice and fill-in-the-blank questions. These do not provide deep insight into students' understanding or ability to apply concepts. And so, we would want to see less recall questions and more questions that will delve deep into their level of understanding and their ability to apply the concepts. So the recall did not afford them the ability to apply concepts, but just to recall what they remember. Clarity. Clarity was an issue in terms of the instructions. Say, for example, the instruction that it was related to the sentence construction. This was a little bit too vague, as the children did not get much guidance in the instruction as to the types of sentences that were expected. Now we know that we have different types and kinds of sentences, and so in this case, we could have guided the children some more on the construction expectation that we want, that we're looking for, right? We should have stated something clearly, such as ensure your sentence expresses a complete thought, use different types of sentences, just to test what they have learned and how they can apply these things to their writing. And that would have been much better. Validity is also another aspect of qualities of a good test that we looked at. And so the validity we look at the fact that for the entire term, this is an end of term examination paper, and for the entire term, the teacher set the paper that reflected only the grammar section of the grade 4 curriculum. We are saying that for a whole 4 months, or 3, the teacher would not be focused on just parts of speech. The teacher would have gone through other aspects of the curriculum. And so we realize that a broad range of language skills was not being measured on this test. We saw that they were too focused on grammar, and they did not afford the students the ability to do more in terms of ensuring that we touch on all the domains on the paper. We also did not, the test did not afford to facilitate all the DOK levels, and so I believe that it was lacking in that regard. I want to see more qualities coming out of a good test, good qualities, but that's what we found as it relates to qualities of a good test. Thank you.
As the Student Assessment Unit continues its effort to support the system in improving its assessment practices, you have been engaged in the second of a series of training to help you to acquire the skills necessary to carry out your functions effectively. The Norman Web Depth of Knowledge will serve as our resource guide in the development of assessment plans and tasks. Web develop a process and criteria for analyzing the alignment between objectives and assessment. The model places tasks in categories that reflect the different levels of cognitive expectations required to complete the task. Based on the examination of the test paper, DOK 1 was evident throughout the paper, as the questions did not challenge the students to think critically or even to extend their thinking capacity. It was mostly recall questions, as the curriculum was not fully implemented throughout the test. DOK Level 1 requires students to receive or recite, or to use simple skills or abilities, and that's recall information, and that's what we saw on the test. Level 2 includes engagement of some mental processing beyond recalling or reproducing a response, which requires both comprehension and subsequent processing of text. That's where the basic reasoning comes in, and most of that was not seen on the paper. Level 3 is of a deep knowledge, and this becomes more of a focus. Students are encouraged to go beyond the text, where they show understanding of the ideas in the text and are encouraged to explain, generalize, or connect ideas. And that's where we have the complex reasoning coming in. Level 4 is of a higher order thinking, is central, and knowledge is deep at this level, extended reasoning. So the students were not challenged at the level 2, 3, or 4. So we weren't able to do a proper assessment of their knowledge of the curriculum So at this point now, we will actually look at how we can improve going forward.